Long as you're happy, you're always gonna grin. You get out what you put in. You get out what you put in. Never gonna lose, never gonna win. Long as you're happy, you're always gonna grin. You get out what you put in. You get out what you put in. You get out what you put in. Yes, we have Alison with us today. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us. 15 minutes for accountants and bookkeepers. I think I need to do something with my branding. Alison Blackler, how the devil are you?
I'm brilliant, thank you, and it's so great to be here with you in this space.
No, fantastic. It's a lovely space, isn't it, as well? So whereabouts are you?
I'm in the northwest. I'm on the Wirral.
Oh, very nice indeed. So just in case somebody doesn't know you who's listening, who are you?
So I am a person who gets really curious and interested about humans, about the mind, about behaviors, about our interactions with each other, about what goes on. But what really goes on is what I'm interested in. So I am trained as a therapist and coach, and I bring a lot of what I've learned to a team, to an executive board, to a set of leaders, and to groups of people as well. So I like to, I suppose, give people almost like a manual, really, of this piece of kit up here that's very complicated, and we're all complicated. And I actually love the fact that that's true.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating, isn't it? When you start delving into it. And you're an NLP practitioner?
I am also a Master Practitioner in NLP as well, yes.
Fantastic. Now, just in case someone's listening and they don't know what NLP stands for, go on, explain that for us, please, Alison.
So it's another format or model. It stands for neuro-linguistic programming, which basically means how we communicate with ourselves and each other. And we have sets of programs and patterns and habits within ourselves, and we can understand those so that we can then make changes or stop doing something, basically. So one of the things that I think is quite unique about my approach is I've collaborated almost myself, all of the different disciplines and modalities that I use to create something that's possibly a little bit of a unique experience for whoever's working with me.
Right. Okay. So I'm gonna go back to basics here. So I'm a chef by trade. Yeah. So what you're saying is I've worked in an Indian restaurant, I've worked in a Chinese restaurant, I've worked in a pâtissier, and what I'm now doing is I'm making this fusion.
Yeah, I like that. Very nice metaphor.
Excellent. Although I wouldn't really want to eat Chinese,
No.
Indian, and cake all in the same dish. That would be a bit of a fusion. And the thing is, so NLP, is it still seen as woo-woo?
I mean, I think it did get some quite poor press many years ago, but I think now, if you can see it as, so for me, when I look at NLP, I think of it in two ways. There is the one which is very much the models, the sort of approaches that a therapist, someone like me, could use with somebody. So basically, if you've got a phobia, you can go away and have your phobia cleared using a set of modalities. But I think the bit that NLP makes it interesting is the fact that we can live by some of the principles of NLP, which I think sit in other areas of our lives, different contexts. And I think when we think about leadership and management and teams, we can use some of the essences of NLP, which is basically giving us a set of principles. And I think they're more user-friendly and usable. So, for example, one of them is there's no such thing as failure, there's just feedback. So NLP teaches you to look for what might have happened properly rather than see it as, failed. So I think the principles of it, I think, are more day-to-day. I think the sort of, if you're using it as a therapist, then it's a language that's a bit odd and a bit strange, and for some people they think, not sure about that.
Yeah, and is this what Paul McKenna does?
Well, it's interesting you say that. Yes and no. When I learnt my NLP, and we also did hypnosis at the same time, And the guy that taught us said, if I ever see any of you on a stage doing things that sort of playing with people, I'll take your certificate off you.
Right.
And I think one of the things that people get quite nervous about is that they think that somebody like me can manipulate them. And the situation is that if unconsciously you are interested in what it is that is being you're being influenced by, then you'll do it anyway. So, for example, if somebody gets on a stage with a hypnotist or somebody like, I wouldn't do this, but somebody like Paul McKenna, and he'll have worked out that they are suggestible or that they are a bit of a larger than life and would run around like a bargain. Yeah. So proving that it would only happen to you if it fitted with who you are. I think it's really important that we know that, nobody can do anything to anyone without their say so and their consent. The human brain is extremely powerful. And I think sometimes when we think that we're being influenced by someone else and I hear people say, oh, he made me feel like this. Actually, he hasn't got that power. No one has. I know. And I think that's what gets interesting. And I think we can take that explanation into sort of that side of things, because they will find people who are highly suggestible, who will go along with things, because the mind is very powerful. It will go along with it only if you're comfortable.
Yeah, but this is the thing. Let me just say hello to Pavel. He comes in every single week and says hello. Hi, Pavel. I hope you find value from today's chat with the lovely Alison. So I when I did my so I've done a neuroscience course, and I'm not sure whether it was required watching or not, or whether I got this from somebody else, but I watched the show where Paul McKenna got people to rob a security van at gunpoint. Absolutely compelling viewing. It was incredible. But what that's telling you is that we can be conditioned, trained, changed, or anything to do something that we're, to get rid of our bad habits. I hear a lot of people having NLP to stop smoking or to stop eating donuts and those sorts of things. But there's other things that we do. For example, I've written a book, and I've gone through my whole life believing that I'm not a writer. And so it's taken me over 50 years to actually write a book. And that's because when I was at school, I was in the bottom set for English. And, you just sort of like think, well, I'm rubbish at English. And I've always been like that. And I was having a chat with somebody yesterday. I just met her on a walk. And she was exactly the same. She's now a proofreader or a copy reader or whatever it is she does, and helps people with their books. And she said, if my English teacher could see me now. And so these are the sorts of things that you can help people like me and this lady with, isn't it, with NLP?
Definitely. I think it's just being able to look at the patterns that are within us all, and we can usually make sense of where they've come from. So it might take back to childhood. I'm terrible with numbers, and I have terrible memories. It's interesting that you focus on accountants, and I work with a lot of accountants too, but I am personally very poor with numbers. And I remember as a kid being literally told, you're no good at this. So it's having respect for where it might have come from, I think, is important. But then it is but we don't have to always be like that. And there are ways of being able to change that unconscious coding that's within us to help us move forward, if you want to. I mean, this is the thing, you don't have to. If you're happy being, not very good at maths like me, then you don't have to. But I think it's what I'm interested in is what gets in the way. What's getting in the way of you doing, being, and having whatever it is that you want. That is what we can influence.
Yeah, but what's getting in the way is ourselves.
Exactly.
There's always lots and lots of talk about imposter syndrome, and I think that's got to be one of the biggest problems that we all have when we're running a business. Is sort of like, oh, I can't really charge that, or I'm not good enough to do this, or I shouldn't be having this as a client. What sort of things can you do to help, those of us that struggle with imposter syndrome?
Well, I think for a lot of people, it's that internal chit chat is A, very powerful, and B, will be telling you things that aren't even true. And I think that's where sometimes when people say out loud to someone like me or to their best friend or whoever, their partner, that whatever it is that they're thinking, then it's even by just hearing yourself saying it, it's like, hang on a minute, is that really true? Do I mean that? And then we can start to really respect, firstly, that it's there. And then we need techniques to be able to work out how do we change it. And one of the things that I like to do is to help us understand our emotional response to things, because that's very fast. Our emotional response is 5 times quicker than any logic. So if we understand that, rather than following that response, rather following that initial feeling that came with the thought, then I think you can start to change up what goes on, because that's the bit that people think is out of their control. That instant feeling of dread, or you see somebody else, comparatonitis, you're looking at somebody else's business over there and you're thinking, oh, I can't do that, I'm not as good as them. All those thoughts are just emotional responses. But when we follow those, we end up not doing something, holding ourselves back. But when we notice the emotional response, settle that, then we can be more logical.
Yeah. But we do our emotions. And I'm just thinking as I walk past the cupboard where the chocolate is, I should just walk past. I know I should walk past, but I feel like a little bit of chocolate and it just pop in and stuff like that. And so it's what sort of things can you say to somebody or help them with if they're constantly going after, I don't know, not so good clients, because I'm an accountant, I'm a bookkeeper, I'm running this practice, but all of my clients seem to be crappy little businesses because I don't feel confident enough to talk to that big business there that I could really do some good for. What could we do there, Alison?
I mean, there's so many different combinations of things, I think, in that situation. I mean, one of the things that I think we've got to get good at in business is valuing ourselves so that we can price ourselves well. And so many people don't value themselves because they see it as the rate, the hourly rate or the product rate. And what they're missing is the years of experience that you've probably got that's got you today. And that's where I think you can start to feel better about what you're charging, so that you bring, I'm not just charging you for this hour or this whatever, however you do your charging, but what I'm doing is I'm bringing you, like for me, I'm bringing you 30 years experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think we need to talk about that more internally and also to others, because when we just talk about that job, that task, this is the price that I'm putting on it, I think that's where we get all uncomfortable with ourselves. But we need to remember that if you have got many years experience, that's what people are paying for. That's what people want as well. And I know you're brilliant on all of your kind of talking about what you need to tell people so that they can be attracted to you. And I know that's like massively your area that's you're brilliant at. I'm always admiring what you do. But talking about what people gain from you is so important, isn't it, in terms of that? But I think it comes down to ourselves. It's how we view ourselves affects how other people view us. And I think that in itself is so important.
Yeah, you get. I don't know if you noticed, I got a couple of guitars on the back there. I'm a bit of a singer, and I've been in bands for a number of years, and I've changed how I say about it now. But I used to, someone would say, "Oh, are you any good?" And I used to say something along the lines of, "Yeah, we're all right." And it's sort of like, great, no one's going to book you then, are they? Not going to come and play. I'm not going to get you to come and play in my pub or at my wedding. And it's just, I think we've got this internal thing going on. It's like, but I can't say that I'm brilliant because then you're going to think I'm a big head. But that's the only way that you're ever going to book me. And I think the problem is we don't like to say that we're brilliant. And so what I'm trying to get people to do now is say what other people would say. So if someone turns around to me now and says the band, I said, oh, yeah, we're good. In fact, the drummer's been playing for 50 years. Gary's been, doing this with his guitar, and the bass player, he's played here. And now you've got this picture that I'm with 3 brilliant musicians. I haven't said that I'm any good, but the assumption is if they're really good, they're not going to have a rubbish singer. Okay. And then I drop into the conversation that, we play at Duke's in Folk Week, which is one of the biggest pubs in town. So therefore, I've got 3 great musicians with me and we play at the biggest venue in town. So yeah, we're brilliant. But I actually haven't said we're brilliant.
Yeah. I love that.
I think that's, and that's where the storytelling comes in and some of the things that we're thinking about. And how would I do that then if I was running an accountancy practice or a bookkeeping business?
I mean, I think it's interesting you say that, isn't it, about how we are as humans, and especially British people.
Oh my goodness, the Brits are the worst, aren't they?
So conservative.
My goodness.
But I think the thing that is really interesting about the way that we are wired is that you're right. People do think if I overly say I'm good, you will be perceived as arrogant, overconfident, and people will diss you. There is only so many people who would see you as that. The rest will see you as clear in your space and owning your space. So you might get the odd doubters who say, oh, they're a bit cocky for their own good. Fine. We're not interested in those people anyway, because we often pay attention to the people who say things like that. And actually, we shouldn't be interested in them. We should be interested in the bulk of the people who need you to be confident in what you're doing, because they're going to buy into that. And that's the irony of it, isn't it? Is that we need to be confident about what we're saying, because that's what will help people buy into us. The minute you start doubting yourself, I heard somebody yesterday. I went to a female founders dinner yesterday, and I asked one lady what she did, and she said, "Oh, I've just got a little business." I was like, no. No, because every single thing that we say or think, our subconscious mind particularly, is earwigging. It's listening to everything. So we need to sometimes really think about what we're saying. If you've just got a little business, if you've even that word just, it's just a little accountancy firm, or it's just, I'm just a bookkeeper. No, that word, let's get rid of it. Let's own it and step into your space, because people will need to feel confident in your company. They'll need to know that you can do what they want. Otherwise, they'll feel nervous and they won't. So we need to forget the people who say you're arrogant. We need to learn how to be much more vocal. And I think the other thing that I often remind ourselves is, this subconscious mind of ours, which runs the show, really. I mean, your conscious mind makes decisions, but everything else is run almost on auto. If we think of that as like a 2-year-old child, 2-year-old children think they're amazing, think they can do anything, and basically have a go. And that little person inside all of us is there waiting all the time to have a go, to go on. And then it's that adult conscious stuff that starts getting in the way, and all our beliefs and all our stuff that we pick up along the way. And I like to help people understand that, because I think then it's like, the pressure's off. Yeah. Okay, it's part of it is the way you're wired. Part of it is you and who you are and how you've come into this world. When you start to understand those two things together, that becomes the game changer.
Yeah, and I've got a little 3.5-year-old grandson, and I am learning so much from him, because he just has a go.
Exactly.
Yeah, I want to walk across the top of that wall. Oh my goodness, but it's so high, and it's just magical watching him. And I think we should all be a little bit three and a half.
I think so. I think it's because they don't take themselves too seriously. They have a go. They think they're amazing. They think they're amazing. Look what I've done. Of course he is. And all children are amazing. But it's that just harnessing, as adults, we become so serious. Let's harness some of that ability, because it's actually still a massive part of your processing. The having a go.
Pavel's just echoing what you just said.
wise words, leaving just out. I got told off by one of my guitarists years ago because I'm just the singer, because I never saw myself as a musician. I said, yeah, it's all right, but I'm just the singer. And he had a right go at me because he said, you're a musician as well. In fact, out of all of us, you're the best because you don't need an instrument to make a noise.
Yeah, and you're the front man.
Right, okay. And I'd never really, I was just hanging around with musicians. There is a joke. What do you call a musician? What do you call a drummer? Is the guy that hangs around with musicians. But you know, it's that sort of thing. And I am just the singer because I never felt worthy enough to be in the band. And I think we can all feel not worthy enough to be in our business, to be the, if you're running the business, you're the CEO or the director or the managing director, or whatever title you want to think that you are. You're sort of like, yeah, but I shouldn't be doing this. Someone's going to find me out.
Yeah, but that's just imposter syndrome, isn't it? We're letting our thoughts believe that somebody one day is going to tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, what do you think you're doing? But actually, it's all just internal. It's all in our heads. And for me, it's just getting a grip of that. Firstly, you have to be aware of it, aware that you're doing those type of thoughts, and then you can start to think, okay, what can I do differently? Who am I going to hang around with? Who's going to be part of the cheerleading that's going to get me where I want to go?
That's a great point. Who I hang around with. Is it the six? You're the sum of the six people you hang around with. I don't know. There's loads of stuff there. Go on, share us a little bit about that.
Well, I think there's so many options for having the right people around us. Sometimes if the chips are down for you, it's very easy to fall into your own trap of feeling rubbish and then spiraling and then going down into a rabbit warren somewhere, and then start looking at everybody else, comparatinitis and all those things. One of the things I love to do, if it's a bit tricky for me, is go and cheerlead someone else. Go and find people who you admire, who you love, who are your people, and go and celebrate. Go and put something on their socials and say, well done, and just give them that something. You gift them your admiration, even when the chips are down. So I think that's really important about who you hang around with. You've got to have people who you can go and do that. And then transversely, they'll do that back as well for you. But I think the bit that's really important about who's around you is we do need those people who might give us a bit of truth, but we have to trust them. We have to have respect for them. Otherwise, it'll just be seen as a criticism. But equally, we do need people who are going to go on, you can do this, and we don't sometimes. Sometimes we have people hanging around who've been around all our lives, and maybe you're rooted to them, maybe there's a loyalty there, but are they doing you any good? Are they? Because what often people will do, of course, is they will give you feedback based on themselves. So I know when I left the NHS, I did 24 years in the NHS. I had a pension and a safety net and a permanent post. It was all very, very safe. And I remember when I said I was going to leave to set up Two Minds, which was 14 years ago now, I definitely had people who were like, oh, you can't do that.
You are mad. Yeah.
But that's because they couldn't see themselves doing it.
Correct.
It doesn't mean that I need to listen
Correct.
to them.
No.
I knew I was doing what's right for me. And I will always encourage people to do what's right for them. Yes, you might need somebody just saying, checking a few questions in around, but actually somebody who's just going to say, go on then, I'm here, I'll support you, I'll cheerlead you. We need those people around us if we're making bigger steps, or even if we're making little steps, we still need those people.
And I think one of the biggest problems we have as a small business owner is our partner doesn't do the same. So they haven't got a clue what you do. So you sit in your shed like me, and it's sort of like, well, then who do I talk to? And so it's just understanding that, and like you say, reaching out. I love that. So the next time I'm feeling a little bit low, I'm going to jump on social media and just
go and cheerlead for someone else.
Boom, because this is altruism. This is being kind. It's one of the things that releases great oxytocins, isn't it? That's
and it's abundance as well. It's part of an abundance mindset. If you can go and find somebody else and say, well done, or I'm so proud of you, or I'm so pleased for you, it changes you. and it changes how you will feel.
Yeah.
It's a very easy way of getting a little cheap bonus. I
Yeah.
think go and cheerlead for somebody else, send them a voice note and say, oh my God, I've just seen such and such on your Facebook. I'm so proud of you. I'm so pleased for you. And even if it's all going a bit meh for you, you will find it. It's hard to do because it's so easy to just be stuck in your own little trap.
It is.
But it's so powerful.
Yeah. The days that I'm having days and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? I stop and think of some of the challenging times that we've had in our lives. And, you know, we can all relate to what happened 4 years ago with lockdown.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like, well, hang on a minute. We got through that. And it's so yeah, I'm going to get through this, and we can do this. We can do this. We've almost run out of time.
Wow.
Is there anything that we've missed? Anything we should be sharing with our accountants and bookkeepers this afternoon? Good afternoon, Hamel. How are you? So come on, is there anything else I've missed that I haven't asked you?
I mean, I think one of the big things that I see with accountants generally, and I'm saying this with love, is that because of the nature of their work, they are very attention to detail people. And let's not pretend that that's what makes you good at your job.
You want them to be
exactly
very good at their detail.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. With respect, we know that's part of 100% what we want. We want you to turn every stone and find all the problems. But keeping that pattern and habit with other things doesn't work. So being a perfectionist in other areas, trying to make everything right and perfect, what I see is a lot of people who are very hard on themselves, beat themselves up when it goes a bit wrong, because that's what they're used to training them. They're used to looking for the problems. They're used to finding out what the solution is. But sometimes there isn't one. Sometimes, especially when it's around people, you know, I see leaders, particularly in the accountancy world, being a bit hard on their team because something's gone wrong. And actually, you know, if you're focused all the time on the results only, you'll miss all of the good stuff that's in there. And I think just generally being mindful of the patterns that you need to do your job well don't necessarily need to filter into just your life and your day and everything else. And they are generally really hard on themselves.
Mm-hmm. If we spoke to our friends and family like we speak to ourselves, we'd be very lonely, wouldn't we?
We really would. We really would. Yeah. We are our worst critics. I mean, talk about judgment, you know, the world judges us, but we are usually a much bigger judge of that to ourselves always.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got one more question for you, but before we do that, I'm going to mention my guest next week. Jerry Williams is coming on to have a chat with me from Smooth Accounting. She was all over Accountex. She was chatting up there. So I'm looking forward to having a good chat with Jerry. She was on my show a few weeks ago, but with a couple of other people. So it's just myself and Jerry next week. So I'm looking forward to that. I've got one more question for you.
Okay.
And the question is, when you were at school, what did you want to be when you grew up? So I'm thinking when you're at primary school. So maybe it was a train driver or something like that. What is it you wanted to be, Alison?
Do you know what? When I was a really little girl, I've always loved horses. And I used to say to my dad, this is going to show my age here, but I was going to set up a place where the rag and bone men would bring their horses at night so that I could look after them and wash their tails and make them look nice.
Oh,
that's what I wanted to do.
Rag and bone. That's a brilliant. That was Steptoe and Son,
isn't it? That's showing my age there.
I'm showing my age too, I'm afraid. Yeah, no. So you would have saved up the Corona bottles to get 10p back on the bottle, wouldn't you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Always trying to save all the, a sparrow would have one less breath in it, and I would be there trying to save it. And then I think for a long time I did want to think I would be a vet, but I definitely wasn't clever enough to be a vet. So
that's only what you were telling yourself.
Well, at the time, definitely. I don't know whether I would have been, to be honest. But anyway, definitely something with animals. But what was really interesting as my journey went on, it's people that I love, and that's why I feel very lucky to be doing what I'm doing.
No, fantastic. Alison, you've been absolutely delightful this afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to people for all their comments. And we will see you all same time, next place. Be safe, have fun. Cheerio, Alison.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
You get out what you put in.